Hey everybody, welcome to Square Off. Some teachers at a Catholic high school in Mississauga are under fire for circulating a petition against abortion. St. Joseph's Secondary School sent out an email last week asking teachers and students to support a Tory politician's motion aiming to redefine when life begins, which could lead to criminalizing abortion. According to Extra, the gay and lesbian news outlet that first broke the story, at least 4 teachers brought the petition to their students. Reps for the school board say no one was forced to sign it, but the issue still has secular groups up in arms. To chat more about this, we have Alissa Golob, youth coordinator for the campaign Life Coalition. Next to her, Justin Trottier from the Canadian Secular Alliance. And joining us today from 105.1 Ed FM and a professor of media studies at Niagara College, Kim Rossi. Justin, some folks will say this is just a petition. You can choose to sign it. You can choose to ignore it. No big deal, right?
Wrong. It's not just a petition. There was also material that was circulated. They've had people come in to give talks on this. Other school boards have bussed students to pro-life, anti-abortion rallies. Other Catholic school boards, I'm not sure this one in particular. This is a history and a trend within the Catholic publicly funded school system to indoctrinate or advance, call it what you will, a particular social and political agenda. It has no business in being foisted on any student, never mind in a system that all taxpayers are funding. So to me, this is part of a bigger picture. We can't lose sight of that.
But Justin, this is a Catholic school, and that's part of their practice. Even parents that send their children there know that, you know, pro-life is what their belief system is. They built the churches, they built the schools, they built the hospitals. I mean, you know.
Well, let's not exaggerate. They've been responsible for building some of those pieces of infrastructure in our society, and other groups there are Jewish hospitals too, but Jewish schools don't get a dime of public money. If this were like Jewish private schools or any other faith-based private school, I wouldn't have as much or really any issue. But we're talking about a school board that on the one hand gets their money from the Ministry of Education and through that all taxpayers, but is accountable not to the Ministry of Education, but I don't know, to the Ontario Institute for Catholic Education in some cases. The bishops get to call the shots when it comes to curriculum. So there is a disconnect there. I think it's a serious one.
Listen, let's bring you into the conversation. And as Justin says, this isn't a parochial school here. This is a taxpayer-funded Catholic school, part of the Catholic School Board. Does religion play a factor here?
Most definitely, and you know, I really don't think that there's a story here. I don't think anyone should be shocked that Catholic schools are teaching Catholicism within their walls. They have a constitutional right to do so. It says it right there in the BNA Act. If Catholic ratepayers are the ones paying for the Catholic schools, if Mr. Trottier doesn't want to pay for the Catholic school system, he doesn't have to.
Actually, I do. We all pay for it. I have to jump in here because this is just a myth that gets circulated, and it's quite tiring, actually. It's not true. First of all, there's a notice of application that's been filed by Riva Lando in Ontario courts. It's going through the courts right now. Her research has shown, and nobody is opposing this, that at most 8% of the money that goes to Catholic schools comes from Catholic or any tax ratepayers. The rest of it comes from general revenue. And we also know that, well, on the one hand, there's obviously more non-Catholics than Catholics, but at the same time, the per-pupil cost to educate a Catholic student is significantly higher, if you do the funding formula, than the per-pupil cost to educate a non-Catholic. So if you do the math, it's quite simple. Non-Catholics certainly pay a significant amount to fund Catholic education. Why are we funding a system where atheist books are banned, where lesbian teachers are fired for being lesbians, where gay student clubs are denied their constitutional right to exist, and now where the school system indoctrinates students into one particular position on the abortion debate?
We have a fundamental freedom of religion in this country. And if
tell
you don't
that to
like
the Jews who don't have their school system funded. Tell that, well, that's exactly what we're doing. And other provinces have done that and successfully changed their particular element of their constitution.
So don't attack particular Catholic school boards and these teachers who are just following Catholic teaching. Take it up with the Constitution.
I'm attacking a corrupt system that should change.
Justin, which religion would you like the Catholic school to teach?
Well, come on, that's a silly question.
I don't
want the system to be funded by the public. Why am I paying for, or why are Jews or Muslims or Hindus or atheists paying for one particular religion to be indoctrinating or educating, again, call it whatever you want, students into one particular side of a debate? Why is it that when students voluntarily take up the pro-choice cause, they've been suspended from class?
Justin, what if this petition surfaced at a Muslim school? What if it surfaced at a
Who pays for
Muslim? Then do you
pays
have
for
an issue
Muslim
with that?
schools?
Well,
That's a private school.
I'd have much less of an issue
Muslim
with
schools
that.
aren't funded by taxpayers.
I don't think any student should be
so you don't have an issue with the issue. You have an issue with who pays for it.
That's a big part of it, absolutely.
Yeah,
And
Alyssa, correct me if I'm wrong. There are many, many students that go to Catholic schools that aren't Catholic, correct? You don't have to be Catholic because that would be exclusionary and that's against the law, right?
They have a legal right to, yes, in primary, sorry to take your time there, in primary schools there's a legal right to discriminate in who they not just admit as students, but who they admit as teachers. And they fire people who were not Catholic when they found
And you know what,
Catholic
let's just take a look at the motion here for a second. It's not a pro-life motion. It's not looking to do anything pro-life in nature. It's merely asking the Canadian government to find out when human life begins, to re-examine that. It's based on science, and if Mr. Trottier has a problem with teaching science and civic duties within the Catholic school system, then I feel sorry for him, because that's what all children should learn, whether they're in the Catholic school system or not.
So mixing church and state Alyssa, mixing church and state is okay by you. Let's ask the government about religion. You're all right with that?
Mixing the church and combining the church and the state, Canada has a relationship between religion and the state, and actually separating the church and the state was actually an idea by Thomas Jefferson to make sure that the state didn't interfere with religion and not the other way around.
That's right.
Well, first of all, it's another country, and second of all, Thomas Jefferson said many, many things, and it's very clear that he did sell separation of church and state to the evangelical community, who at the time were a minority, telling them it would be in the best interest of them, as it would be for any minority religion. But Thomas Jefferson, he actually created what he called the Jeffersonian Bible, where he removed all the miracles. Mm-hmm. This was not a very devoutly religious person. No, he was a smart guy, and I am very much in favor of looking at what he's written. He knew that secularism benefited both non-believers or non-religious people, as well as religious minorities.
In the Canadian Constitution, in Section 93, it says that particular thing, that the state should not interfere with the rights of religious groups of faith and morals. And that's
You're referring to 93, which is the so-called guarantee and protection for Catholic schools, which of course Quebec has added their own clause, 93B. This no longer applies to Quebec, and within a few months Quebec no longer had to fund Catholic schools. So the idea that this can't change, it's changed in Newfoundland. They don't fund Catholic schools anymore. Manitoba, very quickly when they joined Confederation, got out of it. Actually, we're the only province that still obeys that 1867 dictate.
Right, British North America. Okay, we've got to go. Boy, really good discussion. Justin Trottier and Alissa Golob, and you guys can continue to discuss it off air. We have no problem with that at all. But thanks for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.